Hey all. As many of you know, ARAC, Lateral Alliance Church, is trying to extend our kingdom impact beyond our four walls. And one of the ways we're doing that is through something we're calling a missional outpost. And some of you have been asking questions about an update on where that's going, what's happening, what activities are in place. And so this last week, Mike Greenleaf and I sat down and did an interview to give you an update of what's going on. So if you haven't already heard, take a listen. Enjoy. So this isn't really a ministry minute so much as it's going to be an update on our vision. And we've talked about the missional outpost, and we want to give you an update on where we at, what's going on, what's happening. Mike's been here for 3 months, and in that 3 months, he's had a chance to really connect in the town. And one of those things that we did that Mike kind of spearheaded for us was Stuff the Bus. Everybody remember, right? How many people bought stuff for that, right? Lots of people did. It was great. So I want to show you a video clip from the news about Stuff the Bus. If you guys can play that, that'd be great.
Events like this and other things just really help us bring those two sometimes isolated pieces together.
Those pieces, community and school, which community leaders and educators say are two important entities that only succeed together.
It's a way to just say, you know what, teacher, we love you, we appreciate you, everything you're going to do, and understanding that things are expensive these days, so we're trying to help out where we can as a community.
Pastor Mike Greenleaf with Atlanta Road Alliance Church teamed up with Unified Seaford, a religious organization that encompasses multiple churches in hopes of further connecting the community. They recently put on what's called Stuff the Bus, where local churches collect school and classroom supplies to donate to teachers on a bus, which educators like Dr. Susan Harrison, a principal at Seaford High School, says is much needed.
So many teachers have come through. They've been so appreciative. They've just been shopping the bus. It's been really, really fantastic. We know that teachers work longer than their contract hours, and this is one way for us just to say thank you. We see you, we recognize you, and we appreciate you.
But from what we're told, this event was just the start to the bigger challenge of cohesively finding a way to bridge the gap between community and education.
Trying to find ways, how can we be a better presence and really a positive enforcement into our community. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish here together.
Pastor Mike tells us it's a personal mission for him to support those educating the next generation and in turn supporting the next generation as a whole, even outside of the classroom.
If a community is going to run and be functional in the way it should be together. And I have a saying, and many people have a saying, we can do more together than one can do alone. To me, it's not always about the religious side of things. It's about bringing people together and loving on one another, because that's what we should be doing together no matter what the scenario is. We should be caring for one another.
A mission Dr. Harrison echoes through her work as an educator.
How do I show students that what you do at school impacts the community and what you do in the community impacts school? And then how do I keep building transparent communication and be vulnerable with the community of what it is I need as a principal and what students need?
And although this is just one small part of what organizers say is their greater purpose, we're told it's imperative these events spark change in their communities.
It's easy to critique things. Let's join in and do the right things and make our community safer and better.
For the bright side, Jordy Clark, 47 ABC, WMDT.
And Pastor Mike says this will become an annual event before school starts, but he, along with Unified Seaford, are working to engage the community.
Pretty cool, huh? So it was a fantastic day. We expect it to grow next year. A lot of the teachers liked it so much, we think we're going to need a lot more supplies. A lot of the videos they took was after the bus had been picked through, because there was a lot more there earlier in the day. So we just want to take 5 minutes here, a little over 5 minutes, to give you an update on how this is all fitting in. Because, Mike, you've spent your first 3 months here reconnecting with our church and then connecting into the community. This was one of them, but what are some of the other things that you've been doing in the community?
Yeah, so as many of you guys are aware, I've been volunteering as a special teams coach for the football team. I have also been opening up my house to athletes and their coaches and their families. Trying to think some of the other activities I've been doing day to day. It seems like I'm going 100 miles an hour constantly.
Yep. And a lot of that's because you're engaging with us here, as well as in leading certain things, helping support what our leaders are doing in the youth and other areas, as well as leaning into this. Now, all of this is going a direction. If you guys recall, when we started all this, we wanted to plant this missional outpost. Why do I keep going backwards? I feel like I'm losing my slides here. All right, here we go. Missional outpost update, okay? Because there's different pieces to this, and some of you ask, well, where are we at? Because you heard that we're starting to look at this. We're starting to look at facilities, but we wanted to give you an update. There's kind of 4 different things that are happening right now, and we want to give you an update. So why don't you walk us through the first one here? Because the first part, honestly, is just building the teams and preparing for what God is going to do.
Yeah, so the very first thing, I truly believe this with everything in me, that prayer is a primary work of what we're trying to do here. God is not going to do his thing unless we have prayer. And so my emphasis is going to be building a prayer team, which we've already began to assemble, those who have come to me in the last 3 weeks and say, you know, I want to be a part of that. I want to be intentionally praying. We're going to be regularly praying together in person and crying out to God. God, we want you to do this. It's not about ARAC. It's not about Mike. It's not about Weldon. It's not about any one individual, but you. You need to bring this together. So,
and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to finish with that. That works. Prayer matters.
Yes.
And we saw that this Wednesday. I'll share that at the end here. But little teaser. So what about the other 2 teams?
And so we're going to do an executive leadership team. Basically, one's going to help oversee the facility, help oversee the program, help oversee the things that are going on, to be able to engage intentionally into what direction we really need to go. If God's saying go here, that we have a team that is saying, you know what, we're in tune with that. This is what we need to do, and not have knee-jerk reactions. And then the leadership team is going to be the hands-on-the-ground team. The ones that are going to understand the different ministries that we're going to offer potentially in growing into different ministries. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is partnerships with the church and schools, is just understanding that, again, this is not just about us. We're looking at Unified Seaford. We're looking at ways to connect with also Seaford High School, but the different high schools that are these kids are engaged in. You got Woodbridge right around the corner. You got other districts that are engaged with this as well.
So you're building these teams,
yes.
But then there's the activities themselves, and we've talked briefly about this, but why don't you walk us through, because the second part is what's the ministry focus? And there's kind of a short-term, long-term thing going on here.
Yes.
So what are the 2 areas that we're going to be zeroing in on in the short term?
So as you mentioned, Dr. Harrison had mentioned that she is needing help in ways of finding community. And so one of the things that she has cried out to us just as recently is that she needs tutors. She needs, I just had, and not a slight on them, but we had almost 3/4 of our team not passing their grades right now. Okay, just put that in perspective. And so many of our athletes are struggling academically. A lot of them are struggling with different side of things in terms of academics. So
and a lot of that's because they don't have a stable family environment.
That's
so this tutoring isn't just about academics. It's about building relationships. Yep.
So, and that's what she would like to see as well. So they're asking us to come forth.
Okay, and then the ESL was the other thing, which we think is going to be kind of connected to all that.
Yep. So again, as you are aware, there's multiple languages being spoken at Seaford District, and obviously surrounding areas with Hispanic. You have Creole, you have Chinese, you have Canadian. What are you talking about? You have French-speaking students, you have Jamaican-speaking. So there's a lot of different languages going on. So we're going to try to offer ESL to be able to bridge the gap, not only with student to teacher and student to coach, but also parent to their children to the community, which is critical.
Now, those are the kind of the low-hanging fruit, but then longer term, we're looking at some other stuff too.
Yeah. So we're looking at the Alpha course and be able to implement that regularly into the programming, learning how to build relationships, be able to eat around a table, learn how to figure out who they are in Christ.
And basically introduce them to who Jesus is.
Yep, it's an instruction. And then adult gatherings, just being able to find ways of having healthy connections, not just hyper connections, because they become a little dysfunctional at times for our adults in our community. So, and then we have young life connections with Jake Moss and figuring out ways how we can partner with them.
So that's a little bit longer term. That won't happen right off the bat, but that's where we're headed. Now, in order for all this to happen, we talked about the facilities. So how does getting a facility fit in with all this and having a third space?
As one would say, proximity matters, right? Proximity matters, and especially when you're dealing with different types of students, and many in which do not drive, be able to get in connection right away. So we're looking at something that would be closer to walking distance to the high school or schools within reason, And so we're looking at that. We're looking at in the context of why does this all matter, is being able to have a safe place for them to go.
Right. Now, this is a big deal because you have, as you said, where you are matters.
Yep.
So rather than making that the gating factor, in other words, well, we can't do any ministry until we find a place, what are we doing in the meantime? Because we're not going to rush into just going out and buying something or leasing something or renting something. How are we going to approach it in the meantime?
I don't know why you don't want to do that. I do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing that. That's just a joke. No, actually, you know, the beauty of what we're doing here is, again, I think Susan Harrison has done a great job. She goes, hey, you know what? I have the school. Why don't you come use the school? And so she's already saying, let's make this work. Let's make it happen. So we're able to utilize the school as we go through this transition. And she's chomping at the bit to let's get going. And so,
and there's even other ministries like Love Inc. that we partner with
yep.
that are offering spaces. So think of them as running as current tracks. We're going to begin engaging in the ministry of the missional outpost even as we're looking for space.
Yes.
And how we minister will actually affect the kind of space we look for and where that's going to be. So we're going to let God and the executive leadership team kind of dictate that. Now, for all that to happen, there's some training that has to go on. So this is the fourth part about what is happening, what Mike is engaging in, and what his teams are engaging. What are some of these training things that you get to do and I get to do with you?
Training is overwhelming, as sometimes you may think, and it is. But it is necessary and critical to understand people, right? And so I would say, you know, some of the training that we're getting ready to get engaged is the multiplication training, exponential conference, really understanding the why behind what we're doing. You know, be able to engage, be able to not just think in the present tense, but look in future tense. So this training is going to help with that.
And even understanding the context of churches and how they are extending into the community is different today than it has been historically.
Yes, and having different arms, right?
Yep.
So you might historically think this is going to be a church plant, as a traditional church plant, but we're saying, no, this is not what this is right now. This is what we're looking at is an extension of how ministry can be done differently, but with the same expression of worshiping our God and leading people closer to Him. And then we also have intercultural competency, is understanding, do you really know your people? Really, that's what that is. And what you find is even when you live within their presence, you find that you really don't know them.
And this is particularly true across races, across ethnicities, across all that stuff.
Socioeconomics, all that. And so as soon as we think we get close to it, we realize we're really far apart. And this course really helps us bring that.
And so this is something that Mike and I will be doing. And then the Christian Missionary Alliance that we're a part of actually has an entire gospel ESL program that they will support. So as we kind of begin to step into that, there's some opportunities there as well.
Yes, and we're looking potentially bringing them here. And so again, I said this when we were preaching, and we're saying it again, if you have a heart that desires to see people bridge gaps in terms of language barriers and be able to introduce them to Jesus.
Awesome.
I would really highly encourage you to be a part of that.
So if you're interested in any of these, have a conversation with us. We'd love to hear it. We're not going to be throwing anybody into anything. We need to learn and be trained, and so will you. It'll be great. So if you want to, for those of you that think in linear terms, in 2023, the remainder of this year, it's beginning to build these key teams, start some of the training that we talked about, and pursue those community connections that you saw already in the Stuff the Bus have begun. And then as we get into 2024 is when we'll actually begin the tutoring, beginning the ESL, and pursuing that third space location through next year. So that's kind of where we're at today. Now let me tell you why this all matters so much. We said that prayer matters. And Mike was there this Wednesday. He wasn't feeling very well. I don't know if you even remember being up on Wednesday because you were pretty sick. But we had a gathering of the pastors, which we do on a regular basis. And Susan Harrison, who you saw on the screen, showed up at breakfast. She does that. And she's not someone who's necessarily a Jesus follower.
Right.
And we said, Susan, you're the principal of the high school. How is this year going? Now, if you remember, back in June, we had prayer at the high school football field where people came and they prayed and they walked the track, and we've been praying for our community. We've been gathering to pray. They prayed in the schools, and that's been going on. And she sat at the table in PK's this week and said, the school is completely different this year than it was last year. And we said, well, what do you mean? And she said, well, the teachers are more chill. The students are more chill. She went off to list a bunch of different things that are happening. She says, this is how school is supposed to be. And then, and this is what was so amazing to me because she's not a Christ follower, she said, thank you for praying to make that happen. You cannot tell me that prayer doesn't change things.
Amen.
We have an opportunity to pray. Keep praying. Sometimes God pulls the curtain back and lets us see what it is. A lot of times we don't. Trust me, it matters. And so in 3 weeks, we've got the 40 hours of prayer coming up here.
Yeah.
Do not miss your opportunity to be a part of that. This Saturday from 10 to noon, they're doing, we only do it once a month now, prayer at the high school. Just go, you can walk the track, you can take 15 minutes, you can take an hour, it doesn't really matter, to just pray for our town, to pray for the schools, to pray for our church. Be a part of that. Whether you think it does or not, it changes the course of what God is doing in our community.